Hi and welcome to session 8, Delegation and Protocols. This is the start of the second topic, which is pretty exciting. First thing I should mention though is that there's a couple of things up on the class page now. There's Kosuke has now posted his assignment. Anyone else is welcome to post theirs. I will just link it to the class page. And there's also demos, both the demo that is going to be due that you need to do this weekend. There's also a demo that you don't need to do till Monday. So there's a couple of demos coming through now. And there are going to be some students helping me with those demos. I've already had one volunteer and I would appreciate more volunteers. I will help you with them. They're nice and structured, but the more volunteers we have, the better. Yes, volunteering your friends is fine. Okay. So first though, I want to just clarify identifier names because some of you get this right, some of you get this wrong. I want to make sure that we get this right from now on. When you have a class, it has to be a capital letter. That's the main thing. When you have a method name or a property, it should be a lowercase start. Okay, so that's actually the next slide. That's all right. We'll talk about project 2. I'll introduce Typedef enum. It's pretty easy, but I'll just show you the syntax and then I'll tell you what we'll do for demo. So that topic I just started was really important. When you have a class name such as monster group or main view controller, it needs to have a capital letter. In your code, you know it's a class name. You also use class names for values in an enum, like drawing style bold. Those things you don't use often, but when they do come up, it's just the style that they use is they have a capital. Properties need to be nouns, and your methods need to be verbs. Try to stick to that. Try to also name your methods appropriately. If your method is returning a yes or no, call it is or has or does. If your method is called set, then it should set something. If your method's called get, it should find something. It's pretty easy to find. It should do only what is implied that it does based on the verb. Okay, if your method's called process damage, then it should do that. It should process the damage and nothing else. And it shouldn't do anything except process it. You see what you mean? The verb you choose is very important. Make sure it does exactly that and nothing else. Your code will be less buggy. Our second project is called Creature Island. So in Creature Island, it's the classic story of Robinson Crusoe. So Robinson is left on an island. He decides not to get on a boat and leave, even though it's there. He finds some animals and he decides that he needs, for some reason, to rescue them. Okay, now in mine is a bit Pocus-on related. So I've called mine Pocus-on Crusoe. But I want you guys to come up with your own theme, as long as it kind of fits that roughly. Maybe you're stranded on a new planet and have to, for some reason, breed the natural life there to escape or win or whatever. Also a word on appropriateness. Guys, just remember your assignments are school assignments, so you need to make sure that the content is appropriate. There are a few assignments I'm coming through now which include some jokes that are, let's say, the kind of thing that you probably wouldn't want to show your parents, and certainly you wouldn't want to show, say, Mr. Bailey. So if you're worried that what you're doing shouldn't be shown to someone else, then change it. Make it appropriate. It's okay to have monsters. It's okay to have damage and fire stuff and happy things. I don't need to go into the things that aren't okay. We're going to do this rather than what we did last time was we did one big project and we chucked heaps and heaps and heaps of things onto that one screen. What we're going to do this time is we're going to make lots of tiny little project bits. And we're going to make them, and we're going to spend the whole next week just making different bits, and we won't really even plug them together. We're just going to make these small things, and the reason we're going to do that is it's going to make it better. It's going to mean that you're not solving a big giant problem where you've got bugs coming up here and it's confusing and your brain is exploding. Each little problem is easy. Once you solve a little problem, great, I've solved a little problem. Now I'll do another little problem. I'll solve another little problem. And so you're going to make all these little mini problems, each of which will be its own screen, its own view. And then only once you've solved all those little problems, I'll show you how to plug them in together. Once we plug them in together, if they're all solved correctly, you won't have any problems. And we won't be doing many new skills. We've done most of our programming already. We're going to do some new concepts, things to do with the programming, but we don't actually have much new syntax except really easy syntax. These are the kinds of things that the creature island I'm going to demo will have. So you're going to be able to view and equip creatures, you'll be able to breed them, you'll be able to build buildings on your island and then view what you've built. There'll be threats for the creatures such as war, starvation, hygiene. War's common, pirates attack creature island for no apparent reason, so that'll be fun. And you can progress towards winning. Maybe to win you have to build a wharf and a boat. Maybe to win you have to invent a teleporter. Maybe to win you have to reach an education level that is such that they supersede human intelligence. Whatever. You come up with your own things as long as it works for your island. And we won't worry too much about those threats and conditions straight up, but we will build them in a couple of weeks. And of course there should be some sort of cool Hall of Fame. Creature Archipelago is what is the epic level assignment. It's not advanced, it's epic because it is much harder than advanced. They'll be making Creature Archipelago, which basically means you need to come up with a way that you can network your creature island with someone else's creature island. They'll have different creatures. In fact, your island might be networking with their planet, right? And that's fine. And you need to be able to download their creatures to your game and use their creatures in your game, giving them properties, and share creatures and view halls of fames, and maybe thumbs up their creatures to make it that in their game their creature is now more powerful because someone else thumbs up it from another game. So that's Creature Archipelago. You'll note there's no point in doing Creature Archipelago unless Creature Island works. Those of you who head exploded, you don't need to do Creature Archipelago. I'm anticipating 5 to 10 people will do Creature Archipelago. It's really hard. And I'll hold the question to the end, if that's all right. What we'll be doing today in our introduction to delegation is we're going to be building something called MultiProgress View. Now, I've seen a lot of you have used a progress view, and it's like a little health bar is pretty much what you've done with it. And that's great, and that's a standard view they've used. So there's no point in us really making a health bar, although I know a lot of you did. It was kind of pointless because there's already an inbuilt one. However, MultiProgress View doesn't exist. So I know that in my Focus-On games, they're going to have all sorts of stats. They're going to have like how well fed they are, how happy they are, how well groomed they are, how good their hygiene is, have they drunk enough water recently, what's their intelligence level, and I'll have all these different things that I want to be able to display quickly and efficiently. But I don't just want to display that, I also want to be able to display something else, which is how far have you progressed towards this victory condition, how far have you progressed towards this victory condition, how far have you progressed towards this victory condition, and something else like how far is this building through its completion, and something else like how defeated is this current threat you're dealing with? How defeated this other current threat you're dealing with? All of these things are going to be needing progress bars. So we're going to invent something called MultiProgress View, which will work for every single situation I just went through. And the key is we have to program this cool view thing to not specifically require a creature. Because if it does specifically require a creature, then it won't work on something else. Do you guys understand that? We need to make it generic so that it works on everything. That's what it'll look like at the end of the demo. To do that, I need to teach you what delegation is, and this is the big topic of the 6 weeks. This is the topic that turns your ability to write a single screen app into an ability to write a multi-screen app, as many screens as you want. If you get delegation right, then 300 screens will be no more, then 300 screens will be no more difficult than 3 screens if you get delegation right. If you get delegation wrong, your app will fall apart very quickly as you add more screens. So, what we're going to do is our MultiProgress View will have a delegate. A delegate is like a boss. Let me give you an idea of what a delegate is. Okay, in this school, let's have a simplified structure and say that every teacher has a delegate called Mr. Win. Mr. Win is their boss. What that means is when teachers do things, they live in their own world. In my classroom, I do my thing. In Mr. Kolka's classroom, he does his thing. In Mr. Bud's classroom, he does his thing. However, sometimes you need to contact your delegate. So for example, suppose that one of you made a really inappropriate assignment. and I looked at it, I'm like, I'm really worried about that. I would need to contact my delegate and use the method called inappropriate assignment submitted, and then pass in the parameter. I won't pick one of you. And then my delegate, in this case Mr. Wynne, would resolve that issue. He would say, oh, that's a problem, and deal with it. Okay. Now, obviously, that's a silly example, but you see what a delegate does is they have a specific set of responsibilities that I know that they're willing to do. So the other thing worth noting is you can somehow have multiple delegates. For example, there's a person in the school called the Director of Finance, and I'm sure you guys know that teachers do this as a career, so they are paid for their job. And if there's an issue with a teacher's pay, they don't speak to Mr. Wynne, the delegate, because he's not the boss in terms of pay. The Director of Finance is. So they would contact that delegate and say, Mr. Director of Finance, here's an issue I'm having, I've changed my bank details. So there's a method called change bank details, and you would contact the delegate who would then deal with the issue. So the key is, while I have my own world and I can do what I want in my own world, there's a specific list of things that my delegate has agreed to do that when I need them, the delegate will do for me. Usually you'll only have one delegate, but sometimes you can have multiple for different types of things. Are there any questions on the purpose of delegates? Yes?
So would the view and the view controller have a delegate relationship?
So the question is, will the view and the view controller have a delegate relationship? And the answer is absolutely. What we're going to do is the view, MultiProgress View, is going to have a delegate, and we are for now going to make the view controller that delegate. It could actually be something other than the view controller, but for the moment we are going to make the view controller its delegate. And the view and the kinds of things that will be in that list of expectations, that list of demands, will be what color do you want the progress bars to be? What values do they need to be? Should I draw a long bar or a short bar? How many bars should I draw? Do you see the kinds of things that are going on in this delegation process? And that way the view can ask everything it needs to know to be able to actually do its job, which is to draw some stuff. Our MultiProgress view will have a drawRect method. It's similar to the demo that some of you haven't done yet, but basically that's what the code is going to roughly look like. We'll get a graphics context first, as I've demoed to you before. Then we'll get a style. Now, what's a style? Well, that's something we're going to define. But there are going to be multiple ways these bars can work. They don't just have to be bars poking to the right. They could be circles. They could be anything. But the example I showed you used the style, which was called MultiProgress View Display Style Left to Right, because it was left to right. But you could do all sorts of things. But most importantly, we're then going to get the number of attributes from the delegate. That's what happens on this third line. We say how many attributes are there. We're then going to work out how high each of our bars has to be based on that number of attributes. And then we're going to have some code that I've removed from this. But then ultimately we're going to ask the delegate, what color should the attribute be? And then we're going to draw it in that color. Here are the delegate calls that we have done in the view, which you'll do in the demo. So first of all, we have to go self.delegate display style. So delegate, what display style should I use? Answer, I want you to use circles. Okay, you might have a MultiProgress View display style circles, which draws big circles for big progress and small circles for not. You will have number of attributes, which says how many there are. So a monster might have 7. Some things might have 1. You'll have color of attribute with index. So the key is, if there are 7 attributes, then the indexes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all valid indexes, yeah? Therefore, you could ask, what's the color of the thing at index 0? Now, let's say index 0 is health. Let's say you're doing the computer game Diablo, pretty well-known one. Health is red and mana is blue. Let's say you've got 2 health bars. You would say 2 attributes. The color of the one with index 0 is 0, because that's health. And the color of the one with index 1 would be blue, because that's mana. Or maybe you'd actually want 3 attributes, because they introduced this thing called stamina. That's yellow. So, it's up to you how many attributes you want. And the other thing is value of attribute with index. If you're on 100% health, that's going to return 100%. But if you're on 50% mana, it'll return 50% when you give that I value as 1. You guys with me? So you can see we're kind of linking in all the stuff we've done before. However, if we're going to have this delegacy, we need to have some way in our language of defining what it is that are reasonable expectations. In our example, our multi-progress view, we define a protocol. The protocol will be called MultiProgress View Delegate. That is the name of the protocol. Usually you call if you have one delegate and you have a set of expectations, you call it yourself and then add the word delegate. So MultiProgress View defines a protocol called MultiProgress View Delegate. That is, if you want to be my delegate, you must implement the following methods. Implement means write .m files for. Okay, so the way I do that is in the multiprogress view .h file, I put my at interface. That's my own list of methods, yeah? That's just my thing. Guys, pay attention. This is critical. However, you also contain an at protocol for the delegate. Now, an at protocol, it'll be at protocol. It'll then be a list of methods just like would appear in a header file, and then at end. The difference is those methods will not be implemented in multiprogress view.m. They will be implemented in the delegate. So the thing which becomes the delegate, it will implement the methods outlined in that protocol. So it's kind of like you're writing a header file, but not for yourself, for someone else to implement. Who? Your delegate. How do they specify that they're going to implement them? Because in multiprogress view.m, I'll show you that in the next slide, but they will specify that they are following the protocol. They'll say, by the way, I am a multiprogress view delegate. And the computer will then tell you if you've been naughty and haven't implemented those methods. It'll say, warning, you said you would implement the method progress of attribute with index, but you haven't. Yet you told me you were a delegate. What's going on here? You'll get a warning, and you have to fix that warning. The multiprogress view.m just implements its own code. It doesn't implement the delegate methods, but it will call the delegate methods. So in doing things, it will say to its delegate, hey delegate, here's what I need, and it will just assume that they're there. So here's an example of what I just said. This is what you'll do in the demo. So the protocol multi-progress view delegate is an NS object. Don't worry too much about that. But basically at protocol, name of the protocol, and then it lists those 4 methods I said were used. You can see they're listed. Number of attributes, returns an NS integer, etc. So you can define all your methods. And then what we also do in the progress view is if we have a delegate, we need to know who our delegate is. There's no point in having someone you can ask these questions of if you don't know who that someone is. So we define a single property. I'll explain the IB outlet later. Don't worry too much about that. Usually you don't actually have the IB outlet, but it is there in the demo. You have a property which is ID tag bracket multi-progress view delegate. What that means is I've made a delegate. It is of type ID, means any object, any NS object, but specifically an ID which has subscribed to the multi-progress view delegate protocol. So it means any object at all, as long as it has told you, as long as it has agreed to that. Do you see sort of what I mean here? Okay, questions? Do you guys understand what's going on, the concept? Give me a score out of 5 for how well you're understanding. So 5 is all, 0 is none. Make it really clear for me. All right, hands down. There are lots of 3s, a few 2s, and some 4s and 5s. What do you then do in the class that's implementing the protocol? Well, the first thing, at the top of its code in its .h file, instead of just writing at interface focus on view controller, :UI view controller, that means I'm a UI view controller, it also has to say tag bracket multi-progress view delegate tag bracket. What that means is I'm a view controller, but by the way, I'm a view controller who is willing to implement those methods in multi-progress view delegate. I'm there. If you need me to be a delegate, I will be that delegate. So it signs itself up. And then in its .m file, it needs to implement all the methods. So as soon as you say, I will implement those methods, it has to implement those methods. Here's one of them. Number of attributes, return 11. So that view controller just says, oh, I'm going to have 11 attributes. Question?
Yeah, and so the number of attributes, would that be sort of its health and all that stuff?
Yes. So this particular creature will have health, life, that's 2, and 9 more. Yeah. But just for testing, 11's a good number to test with. Now, you've got to remember that when you're dealing with a creature, it might only have 5 attributes. But when you're later dealing with a building progress, you might only have 1 attribute. And when you're later dealing with a something else, you might have 30 attributes. And that's okay. Our view can handle it no matter what number you tell it. Yeah? Okay. So how are we going to implement this? We're going to have the focus on view controller in dark blue on the outside. We'll have a generic view, so there's always a standard view there, and we'll drag onto that generic view a multi-progress view. In the nib files, we'll assign the delegate. What that means is we'll do that control-click dragging to attach the delegate. So that property here, which says the multi-progress view has a property which links to its delegate, we're going to assign that in our interface builder, so when in the drag and drop method. Later we'll do it in code, but for the moment we'll do it drag and droppy. And then the multi-progress view, through that property to its delegate, can call these methods. And you'll see that the multi-progress view delegate, the purple bit, is inside the focus on view controller. So it's actually part of the view controller is the delegate calls. Rather than those function calls, those method calls being here, which is where you would think they are, they're actually in the view controller. That make sense, guys? Okay, we're getting close to the end now. The final thing I want to do is just a very little syntax thing. I also in the demo introduced Typedef NS enum. It's a lot like hash define. We're going to put this in the header file. You use this when you have parameters or arguments to methods that are specific to yourself. So in this case, our UI view is going to have multi-progress view display style left to right and display style right to left. If you choose right to left, it's just going to right align all those bars, right? So it can do it either way. The point is by putting this in our .h file, we say the type multi-progress view display style, when you see that as a type, just like type int or type, so just like type NS integer or type CG float, there's a new type called multi-progress view display style, and that type has 2 values. It has left to right or right to left. So you can in code say if style equals, with 2 equal signs, multi-progress view display style right to left, then do this. So you'll see that in code. Don't get too confused about it. Just think of this as 2 hash defines. Do you have a question? No? You can ask it in the end. When we get to building the demo, there's a lot of steps. I've put them here. They are the steps I follow in the demo. So when you do the demo, I recommend you download these slides and have them beside you so that you can kind of tick off each step as you go. It is tricky to put this together the first time, and the second time, and the third time. You will get the hang of it, but it is tricky. Once it's all plugged in correctly, you'll find that you can program some pretty awesome stuff. So keep this list out when you're doing the demo. The homework is just to do that demo. It is a hard demo. And if you wish to do extra stuff, I've suggested 2 things there. I've suggested you can add delegate methods for more customization. You know, there could be a new method that you're asking for. Maybe you could have a fore color and a back color for the bars. You know, there's all sorts of things you can add. And you can allow for other drawing styles. So your view itself can show itself in different cool ways. And I really want to stress this last point. When I learnt delegation, I remember doing the course. It was actually one of the first topics I did in the course I was doing. And I remember how hard it was. It's like, what's going on here? Who owns what? Why is this method here? Why is this definition here? It is a bit confusing at first. But what happens is you end up with this beautiful hierarchy. All your objects, all your view controllers, everything are plugged together in this neat hierarchy in the end. And it means that when you want to do something, you can always do it. You can get the communication between your multiple views effectively so that you can basically make your app really effective. So you will be practicing delegation over and over and over again. There'll be like 4 demos on it next week, which is all just practicing it. And then you'll practice again the next week, and you'll practice it again. You'll get the hang of it. Just work through it slowly and patiently, and make sure that at these test steps, you don't proceed to the next step till the previous one works. Okay? Otherwise, you'll get yourself in a mess, and it'll be too hard for us to help you on the forum. that's the end of that. Can I take questions? Yes?
Is it more efficient to hard code it than to drag and drop?
Efficiency is not affected. We'll be dragging and dropping the first time just because I'm keeping that code away. And then we'll be doing something called table views where they're drag and dropped for free. They're pre-dragged and dropped. You don't even need to drag and drop. They're automatically plugged in. After that, when we start doing segues, which is opening new windows, we will have to do it in code. And it's not too hard. I just want to wait till then. Yep.
So with this, we're meant to complete all the demos and then we start working on the project, or do we start working on the project?
So the answer to that question is, wait, when are we working on the project? This demo is going to be an important piece of your project. You are working on the project by doing this demo, and all the demos that are up next week will become your project. So while doing the demo, if you feel that you would like, well, there's actually very little flexibility in this one, but if you feel like you'd like to make it look space-themed and put a spacey background on the view, that's fine. But basically, your project is going to be a combination of the many demos we do, plus adding your own things. But we'll do that after you get the hang of delegation.